Hello there, this is Big Benedict. We're playing Resident Evil 4. The 5 almost confused me right there. This is Resi 4, and this is Separate Ways, and this is Chapter 5. It's entitled Obtain the Sample. And although there is a merchant at the beginning of the stage, there is no typewriter, just like many of the other stages in this campaign. So the first thing you want to do is just take care of this guy. And the only thing I'm going to mention about the typewriter is that there's no way to save your loadout. So I've trimmed out a cutscene, but as you go right as she did that 180 turn, that's where the cutscene is, and that's where the guy jumps down with the machine gun. So if you stand back here, this weapon, I have to give it a lot of credit for not clipping against like environments. Like you can hide behind corners of the environment, creep out a little bit, and as long as the reticle is not on the quote-unquote cover that you're hiding behind, because this really isn't a cover-based shooter, but it is technically cover that you're hiding behind, you will not get killed the same way you get killed in Gears of War when you experience clipping with that, which is really handy. So I really like the stage. It's got 2 bosses. They aren't difficult though. I'll get you through them. So when you come up here now, there's going to have the option for you to do the hook shot, and just bear in mind that when you do the hook shot up here, there's going to be one guy up here who sometimes is so keen on killing you that he will throw the knife at you. So what you do is you kind of, unfortunately, you can't do anything skillful to get out of the way, because it either hits you or he doesn't. He's either on his mark when you're up there or he's not. So there are some bow darts up here, as well as a treasure inside this can, and that's the first wave. You'll jump down here, and I got so familiar with these checkpoints so I know exactly where they are, but you don't get one for quite some time. So when you come up here now, there's going to be a couple of chargers, a couple of archers, one guy throwing a projectile, and then one guy, excuse the beeping, one guy with a shield. So if you think to yourself, well, maybe I'll just go to the tower up there and shoot these guys, pick them off, it doesn't work, because what happens is they'll just cluster around the bottom of the building, and you won't be able to target them because they'll be at an extreme steep angle. And the only thing that I have found that actually does work though is if you want to throw the bow darts and do some splash damage from up there, but it's hardly necessary, because these are simple enemies, and why would you want to waste your bow darts? They're extremely helpful, and just make sure you have them for the Krauser boss fight. You won't need any for Salazar, but the reason I'm coming back up here now is because there are 2 archers that I know about, excuse me, and which are easiest dispatched from this high perch. So the first one is at a lower vantage point than the other one, and just I would go for headshots unless you think you might need to stagger him because he's aiming at you and you don't want to take a hit. Do headshots, because on this mode it's still pretty challenging, even though like you don't unlock a higher difficulty mode, which was my only reservation about making this guide. But still, if you don't get a headshot, they typically don't die with a body shot. So I do like that kind of durability on enemies. So that's this wave concluded. So what we're going to do now is spawn some more enemies. And as you can see, it's just one of those methods of you go up a little ways, you spawn enemies, and you fall back. Because if you don't fall back, you're at too much of a vulnerability on the map. It's just like in Gears of War or any other game that's a shooter like this in third person. You know, Max Payne, for instance. So let's see how far we need to go up. I would say a few paces off from that ladder as far as video game distance is measured. Just a couple of guys here. Be very careful though. I'm not sure what happened there. I think, oh, actually an alternative to doing that, which is a little bit risky, not the strategy I'm going to tell you, but what I was doing there standing so closely is risky. An alternative there is to go back to that tower where we were sniping enemies, and you can shoot the incendiary barrel next to those 2 enemies and cleanly take them out. And then this guy up here will always be having his back to you, so just take him out. And then you still don't get a checkpoint, and you have to do another, I suppose you'd call it a gauntlet. It reminds me of Dead Space 2 when you're riding the lift on that platform. Do you remember that platform in Dead Space 2 where I said that third-person view kind of hinders it? It still hinders it a little bit over here, but it's not the main issue. The main issue is just the sensitivity and the slow moving around and the aiming. But I think most of that is psychological, because in this game the enemies are balanced in such a way that they stay down on the ground for a long time when you knock them over. It takes them a long time to get to their feet as well, and then when they do start walking to you, they normally don't like sprint right over to you and start clawing at you, which is very fair, since this game has a very stiff and slow aiming mechanism. So I would say the biggest threat in here is La Plagas. So save your flash grenades and just get them out of the way, because they can hit you from clear across the room. And otherwise, you know, even though you might see me moving the camera from left to right, it's only out of paranoia. These enemies, they drop from the center of the room, and they don't seem to drop on the corners and try to screw you over. But after this fight, you do get a checkpoint. And I thought the checkpoint was after you press the button in the next zone, because that's where the checkpoint was before. Although we didn't have this sequence in the main campaign of enemies just dropping on us. So there is a La Plaga on the ground. We need to take care of him if possible. Did I have any other issues here that others might experience? The only issue I had was kind of a non-issue of being tempted to get all these drops. See all these drops? I know they're going to disappear if I take too long and I don't pick them up. And it's just that pull and that trying to resist it in order to make sure that enemies don't drop on you while you're trying to be greedy and scavenge all of these things, which I'm doing right now. So if you wait for periods of inactivity, periods where you suspect there is a little bit of inactivity, or after enemies have fallen down and you drop all of them, and you know that no enemies are coming down because you've just dropped a wave and they're just indisposed for the time being. And I don't know, it's not that bad. I didn't discover any other problems. The next part I had some issues in, but with retrospect now, I can tell. Ooh, see, just little things like that might happen. You know, you get grabbed in a reload or something like that. Okay, so here's the checkpoint now. So if you die in any section, up until you get to the next zone after this, you're gonna start back there, and it's actually a pretty unfair checkpoint. And I wish there was a typewriter over here, to be honest, just because there's so much to do over here on this checkpoint that at first you're thinking to yourself, well, I'll just go around and collect everything and take my time, because I'm sure they'll give me another checkpoint, but they don't. So it makes a situation where just let me get this over with. And you know, I don't even care about the items over here. I did care about them early on, but I know the zone's gonna seal on me when I go into the next zone. So let's just get it done and not worry about picking up all these items, because there is a lot of loot over here. Okay, I did have to jump out of the session and edit an editing fail over here for myself, because I did die over here and I had too much footage overlapping afterwards. So when you come in here now, you want to head to the left, climb the ladder, and then there's going to be two guys in here. We've done this as Leon before, however, this is much easier just because of the fact that you don't get enemies running up this ladder constantly. And it wasn't constant with Leon, but you know how it feels that way sometimes. So all that we're doing over here is we're taking out the archers, and it's kind of a shame that you have to do this. I'm throwing a grenade down there to take care of one archer who I can't hit from this vantage point, and then I'm going to take this guy out next. So that's all the guys to the left. Now on the right there's going to be one more enemy that if you could just glue yourself to cover and creep around the cover, it would be very simple. But it's just this guy. And the only other problem is, you see across the way there is a little area that I'm going to be going to, And every time that I made a run for it over there, even knowing when that guy was, knowing full well that the guy was in there because he killed me a number of times, he would always grab me, and I couldn't move the camera fast enough to his position to see what he was doing, or to even shoot him. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to equip my bowgun to shoot an arrow in there, and this was the first time I had experimented with this, so you might see a little hesitation, but I'm going to equip this and shoot an arrow in there and depend on the splash damage, excuse me, to take him out. So I'm going to keep quiet so you could maybe hear them die. So you might have to listen with headphones on that because I'm not sure. If not, just keep your ear close to the microphone. I couldn't hear him when I was playing this campaign, but what you want to listen for is a groan to see if he dies, because when you get this cutscene here and run in here, he's so close to you that it's hard to not get grabbed, which it's over because you can't get out of that QTE. And then the next thing we're going to do after this, so you've secured this checkpoint, there is no checkpoint, but you have secured this position. What we need to do is take out the guy with the machine gun and avoid the fire. So wait until he is done shooting, run up to him, and why did I do that? I think I did that right there. Did I throw one? If I'm throwing this, it's because I've never done this before, so I don't know where the hell he is. But it looks like you can just stand right around this corner. Yeah, this is the best way to do it. Stand around this corner and then shoot him with this. The shotgun that she wields is not powerful enough to stagger him perpetually like the riot gun does. Even then, it takes a point blank shot to the head to stagger the guy. So it's really nice, and it's made very, very competently by not having clipping with this weapon around corners, which it always accounts for your death in like a Gears of War game or Uncharted or something like that, or hell, even Dead Space sometimes. But this game, I don't know how they made this game, quite honestly. I don't know how such a brilliant masterpiece can be produced like this and not have, you know, some issues to it that may have needed patching. But this game was made when patching was unthinkable, not possible in the first place, and unthinkable that something would not be put out to the market in 100% perfect condition. Okay, so this is the first time I had gotten this far, and I didn't know that there was another guy coming. So with retrospect, I can tell you that as you're ascending this ladder, just be very careful because you're going to get that cutscene. And the best place that I found to stand was just by complete accident, but it turned out to be the best place. So we're going to use this bowgun again, and every time that he makes himself visible here, I'm gonna use this, but that is not necessary. We're going to hit him with this every time. Every time it hits him, he gets staggered, and that gives us time to reload. And all he does is keep walking right into this. And if you happen to miss, just make sure you make up for it by hitting him as he is approaching you, and then that's it. But that's a hard checkpoint to secure. If you know every position of the enemies, it isn't that bad, but I think just trying to find out where everybody's located is difficult. And we should be free and clear, although when I was doing this, the music did not subside, so I was a little uncertain. Are there any enemies left? But there weren't. So when you come in here, now you do get a checkpoint because the letters are green. So open this door, and we're almost coming up on Krauser now. Krauser himself isn't too bad. You have a choice of using weaponry on him, or, well, I guess the knife is weaponry too, but you know, you can use the knife, or you can just use the bowgun, which I'm going to be using in conjunction with the knife. I have a pretty good strategy for you, although it does require some very particular slashes of the knife and cutting his feet and then staggering him in the head. But what I found was that he seems to throw the flash grenade and then disappear after he receives X amount of damage, and that variable of X is not that much actually. So if you can get him staggered with the bowgun, the fight is actually going to be yours pretty damn quickly. And then Salazar, it's just using the knife, so you don't need any you don't need any resources beyond that, which is a free resource. So this is a pretty fun fight. I mean, Salazar is kind of challenging until you learn how much to back off with a knife. But the sequence after Salazar, when you're running around all the scaffolding, that took me more tries than Salazar, and I think that's just bad. It's poorly designed gameplay when that happens, because we're talking about a boss of this game. I mean, this is a contained game, and I know it is a subjective experience. Somebody else might beat it very simply, but I think I'm an average to above average gamer, and like when that happens, I think that there's some kind of a balancing issue going on. And it happens all the time. I mean, it happened in the main campaign where the main boss, that monstrosity that you fight as Leon, it took me far fewer attempts to kill that than to do the boat section afterwards, which almost had me screaming because it's made so poorly. So I think to fix that, it's simple. You just give the player a checkpoint a little bit ways through. Because, let's face it, it's just a spectacle sequence at the end of a game. It's not meant to be hard. I mean, sometimes they're just inherently hard, though. So we are coming up on Salazar now. I think we just have a little bit more traversing. He'll be in a different environment, too. And it's not one of those situations like before where you have to track him down all over the fucking place. It's pretty good. I need a little bit of water, though, for these fights. So, how's the run back for this? I think the run back's pretty good. There's a typewriter in here, and this is the final stretch. I think it's just this enemy, and then a couple of one guy with a shield. Definitely enemies that can be skipped. So if you have no interest in fighting these enemies, and there's a merchant over here as well as a save point. But like I said about the merchant, I have a heap of money, and you don't have anything else for sale. So I think they should have offered some more weapons and maybe some tune-ups, because I don't think a player should end the game without any more options to buy things, especially on a first run. So things you want to equip, just make sure all your weapons are reloaded per usual, because there is a section after Salazar, like I mentioned, on the scaffolding. So just make sure everything's reloaded. Go back and save your progress after you kill all these guys. The next door will be a save door anyway, so everything will be saved for you. And I couldn't get him in a very good loop with the knife, to be honest. So what I did was just busted out the bow gun, which it really isn't overpowered because it's not very strong. It just has a very good way of stunning and then staggering an enemy, so that you can reset, reload, kind of regroup mentally while you're judging what you should do next. I mean, and you'll see how many darts it takes to take him down. I mean, it takes almost all of my rounds to do so. And just this character is just like, this makes me so mad, and it's so frustrated when you're clipping around everything and you have to control the character as though you're driving an in-game car, or a tank more appropriately. I mean, look how flexible she is there, but then she can't go around that little clipping shit right there. Okay, so when you come up here, you'll get a checkpoint. Let's see, where's the checkpoint? No, the checkpoint is in this room, actually, and then you'll have to see this panning up here every time. So what I decided to do is just use the knife to trip him. You're always going to be doing QuickTime events on these bosses, these two, so just make sure you're pressing all of the buttons simultaneously, unless you can react competently to the buttons and just press them. So what we're doing is we're just hitting him in the leg area. He's going to do that, and it's going to transpire to this 2 different times. And we're just, keep pressing the QuickTime events, keep shooting him, keep staggering him, and it's not that difficult. Then you can use the thing in the center to kite him a little bit if you want to. And then every time that this is telling you that it's a new phase, but there is no checkpoints to any of these phases. And it's a hard fight, but it's not long. Just the same as with Salazar. It's pretty difficult, but it's very brief and it's over very quickly. And if you're having problems, just use this weapon. It's very, very helpful. I mean, the guy is, I think he's dead in one more hit. And if you can do that without taking damage, you'll be able to do this next part too. So here is Salazar coming up, and what we're going to be doing is we're just going to be slashing at him, and sometimes he hits you and he doesn't give you a quick time event. And I think the reason for that is you're taking too many slashes than you are you're owed. So the thing is, just come down here, do a little meet and greet with him. Do the evade, slash him. In these early phases, you can do 2 slashes, and then just do the quick time events. Slash him once as things go on, like do 2, and then just do 1 afterwards. Because what I think actually is sometimes when you're doing multi slashes, you're overriding the quick time event on the screen. So just do 2 slashes at first, and then follow up with just 1 every single time, and then just evade every single time. It's actually a very simple procedure, very methodical, even clinical. And it's a good and done deal. I mean, the bitch is already dead. And this part here is a bitch too, because it took me more tries than that did. So this is a timed sequence. I have completed it once and then got to the very end and failed the time requirement. So the thing you want to do here, I didn't mean to sound all weary there. It's just that this kind of brings back some bad memories for me. But we're making some downward progress over here, and I think this archer, he killed me more time than anybody else. So what you're gonna do is take this archer out, take the archer out to the left, and then equip your semi-rifle, because we're gonna have the mercenaries up here with the spiked mail. So you can either throw a flash grenade to stun him, or just do this. 1 headshot will take him down. 1 bow dart doesn't take him down though, so I think it takes 2 to 3, but 1 headshot will take him down. And then when you get over here, just be on the lookout for more of the archers. And as you can see, it was pure luck right there that I didn't get hit. This is actually, although it's pretty cheap and challenging, it isn't, like if you can get this far, you shouldn't be worrying about it too much. It's just, it's the last thing of the game. You just want the campaign to be over, because you've just beat the final boss. And I'm just getting frustrated here, so I'm running past things. And then there's going to be another one of the mercenaries up here, and I didn't trust him to not charge at me fast. So what I'm going to do is hit him right in the head. And you get plenty of time with that flash grenade because it stuns him for a long time. I think somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 seconds, which is good. And then watch out for this final guy here, but he was not paying attention or something, and we have 35 seconds left. So we're just going to use the hook shot. There's Leon fighting the final boss battle. A couple of other guys just not getting ready enough, quickly enough. We're going to go over here, do the 180 turn on landing, and there is no more encounters. It's just we need to pick up that special rocket launcher. And then after that, you have cleared the game. And I want to take, what did we get there? The S stands for stylish. I don't know what that is for, but that is the campaign cleared. Take care.